Okay, so hello everyone, I am Alyan and I am back again with another interview and I have an absolutely amazing guest with me. He is best-selling author, a business development expert and army veteran, a pilot and a global super connected with over 25 years of experience. So welcome Mr. Paul, how are you?
Hi, thanks, Alan. It's good to be with you. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much sir for coming. So before moving on the question, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Carl Grant. I'm actually the third, if you look me up. So I have a son who's the fourth, and I live in Austin, Texas. I've been married for 31 years. It'll be 32 this summer. I have five children and a granddaughter, and I've actually been to Pakistan four times, believe it or not.
Thanks so much for your introduction. So my first question in your screen, you are an army veteran, a pilot, and a Harvard trainer, investor, and a best-selling author. Which one of these identities surprised the people most?
Yeah, I don't think my friends are surprised by any of those things because they know me, and I am a very hard charging, curious person who's always got a lot of things on my plate. And so, for people who actually know me, they're not surprised by any of these things that I would, have learned how to fly airplanes, and I wrote a book and served in the army, and I went to Harvard. I mean, but um, you know, none of these things happen by accident, and I'm happy to talk to you about each of these things if you want to ask me about them.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for your answer. So you're growing up in Western Virginia. What was the moment you realized you were made for something bigger?
Well, Reston's actually a great place. I don't know that there's something bigger. It's not really that because Reston is a suburb of Washington D.C., the capital of the United States, and so there's a lot of important people and important businesses in Reston, Virginia. I happened to move to Austin, Texas, 6 years ago, and a lot of people moved to Austin, Texas during COVID because um, Texas was more relaxed during COVID than other places, and you may have heard of a guy named Elon Musk. He moved to Austin, Texas, and another guy named Joe Rogan also moved to Austin, Texas, right around the same time because they were fed up with how things were being handled in California at the time, and so when I moved here, I had actually bought my place a year before COVID, so it wasn't a COVID move, but I moved here because one, the weather is a lot nicer. It snows back in Reston, and in Austin, it hardly snows. I mean, we have like snow every 5 years. It's not a regular thing here. It's the swimming pools stay open year round in Austin, whereas they're only open 3 months out of the year back in Reston, Virginia. I also moved to Austin, Texas, because I started an event. I don't know if you've heard of we have a huge event in Austin called South by Southwest. People come from all over the world, hundreds of thousands of people, and I started an event there called the Sunday Service, and it's a Christian version of South by Southwest. And after COVID, people were looking for something more meaningful, and there's not a lot of faith based things done like that in business settings, and so it really attracted a lot of people. We had 5,800 people come our first year, and 8,000 people come the second year. So it became very quickly the largest event at South by Southwest Interactive.
All right, so thank you so much for your answer. So how did the army change the way you make decision under pressure?
Well, a lot of people crack under pressure, and when you're learning to lead in the military, you can't. I mean, they train you to make decisions while you're having bullets shot at you and bombs blowing up around you, and you know airplanes, helicopters flying over you that want to kill you. I mean, a lot of people want to kill you when you're in the military, and you can't let that shake you. And so we actually had training exercises where we had to crawl under the ground below like barbed wire with bullets being shot over us. And you didn't. you didn't have the decision like you don't like doing this, you want to get up, you'll get shot if you get up. So you have to learn to make decisions while the worst things are happening all around you and you can't crack. And so I think that, just for example, getting on this podcast with you today, I was on a new computer I received and I couldn't, you were talking to me and I couldn't talk to you. And so, your average person might freak out and not know what to do and panic, because they're supposed to be on air. Well, I simply went and got the other computer and I logged off and logged on, and I figured this thing would happen when I get on. It's not going to happen until I get on. And so you're just going to have to wait a few minutes, and it worked out. And, it's not the same as bullets being shot over your head, but, it just trains you just not to sweat over the little things.
Right, Chad. Thank you so much for your wonderful answer. So my next question is, what's the toughest leadership lesson you have learned that no business school would ever teach you?
So when you go to business school, you're really trained to come into an existing business and to manage that business. That's really essentially what business school teaches you. It's business school is not really set up to teach you how to do startup stuff, right? And when I got out of business school, I moved quickly into starting a business with my dad. Actually, at the time, this was a long time ago, and 35 years ago. And I had no training for how to incorporate a business, how to, in the United States, you have to have an employer identification number. You had to have a bank account set up. There's certain things that you had to do that were the building blocks of a business, as well as going and getting your first customers and getting a logo and getting business cards and all these things. None of that stuff is taught in business school. And so, that when I first did it, it wasn't a leadership lesson, but when I did it later in life, interestingly, I did it with my son. When my son graduated and was out working, we actually started a business together. And so I led him on how to do these things, and I taught him all the things I had learned years ago. And so I took some leadership in teaching and training him, and now he's off doing these things himself with other businesses.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your answer. So you contributed significantly to a $1.7 billion increase in annual revenue. What was the strategy behind that kind of result?
Well, so that was done for a law firm, and the law firm had $310 million in revenue when I joined, and it had over $2 billion in annual revenue when I left. And so the strategy behind that was a long-term strategy. This wasn't a quick sales strategy. This wasn't a transactional strategy. This was a relationship strategy. And so I really took the long approach to building relationships with people and figuring out how I could help business leaders and investors with what they were doing. And so, rather than going out to potential customers with my hand out, I came with my hand full, and I was offering them things I could help them with. And because I was helpful to many, many businesses and many, many investors over many, many years, they in turn wanted to help me with what I was doing, and they would recommend me and recommend my firm into companies. And then I hired a team of 17 people who behaved in much the same way, and they were very, very successful. So built a successful team and just took a good give first approach to building relationships.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your answer. So you have worked with big four firms and AM low 10 companies. What one thing biggest firm in the world do that small business company ignore?
Well, yeah, so I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I worked for a law firm called Cooley, and then I consulted with another AM Law. It was an AM Law 50 law firm. I guess Cooley might be AM Law 10. But these are large law firms. And, one thing they do that small businesses completely, small businesses are cash constrained, and there's they don't have the luxury of the bigger firms that have bigger budgets and can spend money, hiring, expensive people and training them. And I think one thing that my firm did for me, you talked earlier that I went to the Harvard Business School. They actually paid for me to go do that. Small businesses can't do that. So that was kind of a nice benefit to get. I got to go study private equity and venture capital at the Harvard Business School, which was a real treat.
Okay, thank you so much. So, what does AcumenX do differently from other advisory from out there?
Well, so most advisory firms will come in with a senior person and they'll sell an engagement, and then they will bring younger, more junior people in to actually staff the engagement. That's not what we do. We have a very senior team. The people on our team are people with 30 to 40 years of experience. Everybody on the team is from the ages of their 50s all the way through their 70s. These are very mature, very experienced people, and so that's who you get. That's what we do differently. Is we have former partners and even a managing partner from a big four accounting firm. We have former partners from law firms. We have an investment banker, in myself, who's led global business development for a large law firm very successfully. You get folks that really understand what they're doing, and you don't get some kid advising you on something that he's only read about.
Alright, sir. Thank you so much. So, as a global super connector, what's the difference between a connection that creates wealth and one that just look good on paper?
Well, so when you talk about connections, the connections that I make, they're not really about wealth, and they're not really about looking good on paper. Either one. These are about relationships between two individuals I believe could add value to one another. So the difference between a true connection versus just people that follow each other online. That's the problem today. Is so many of the young people coming up, they have people follow them online, and they get people who like their posts, and they think that's a relationship. That's not a relationship. That's somebody who follows you online. They're not gonna. These people aren't gonna do anything for you if you ever need them. I think a quality connection is when I reach out to somebody who I know, who knows me, and they trust me, and I know somebody else and they know me and trust me, and I tell these two people, you two need to know each other because you can bring value to each other, and then they develop a relationship. Right? This is not just somebody who's liking your post on Instagram. This is somebody who actually gets to know you, and the two of you are going to not just do a transaction together, but you're going to develop a relationship that will hopefully result in a lifetime of business together. Those are the type of connections I like to make.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for your answer. So, most people network from what does real relationship building actually look like in your world?
Well, real relationship building is when you're getting to know another person, and you're taking a genuine interest in that person, not trying to sell that person something, not trying to see what they can do for you, but you taking a genuine interest in them, in their life, in their family, in their work, and trying to figure out what you can do to bring value to that other person. That's relationship building. Everything else is transactional. If you're just trying to sell somebody on buying a product, that's a transaction. That's not a relationship. And so I think you really need to differentiate between sales and true relationship building that results in not just a business relationship, but a friendship, right? So my true connections are people who I know, I like, and I just had a young entrepreneur that I helped him get his business started, and he's in his mid 20s. He's got $100 million a year business now, and he was asking me this very question, like, do you have a kind of a method for staying connected with people? because I've got over 23,000 LinkedIn connections, and you can't possibly talk to that many people in a year. It's just too many people, right? You got 365 days in a year, and you don't work on all of those. And, with 23,000 plus connections, how many times can you multiply, divide 365 into 23,000? That's a lot. You're not going to meet that many people. And so I told him what I'm going to tell you is, no, I don't have a methodology. I literally reconnect with the people I like, not necessarily the people that are going to be the best business contact for me. So when I went to Columbus, Ohio, I sat down with this entrepreneur and we had some drinks together, and we had a great time. And I do that every time I go into that city. I reconnect with them. Why? Because I like them. And maybe we'll end up doing business together. Maybe we won't. But I like to stay up with people I like rather than people that could benefit me.
That's really amazing, sir. Thank you so much for explaining this two word. So, what's the coldest outreach you ever received that actually impressed you enough to respond?
Well, it's interesting. Most cold outreach doesn't work all that well. But every now and then, if you thoughtfully connect with somebody and you have something that they need, or you're a solution to a problem that they have, you can connect. And so I think I received actually a cold outreach from somebody in Pakistan who wanted to do some outsourced work for me. And I normally get a ton of those things. And I normally block them, or I don't want, I ignore them. I just don't pay attention to cold outreach. I like to get a warm connection to somebody. Actually, no, she wasn't from Pakistan. She's from the Philippines. And she happened to message me right when I needed something that she was doing. And so I followed up with her and I actually used her. So that was the coldest outreach we received, that she said the right thing at the right time. And I took a risk and I worked with her, and we had a pretty good experience, actually.
Okay, sir. So you studied private equity and venture capital at Harvard Business School. Is the fundraising game broken for young entrepreneurs today?
Um, well, it's not broken, but many young entrepreneurs don't understand the rules of fundraising, right? And so they end up approaching the wrong types of capital at the wrong time for the wrong things. All right, and so if you look at how capital is organized, you've got angel investors, you've got if you move up from angel investors, you've got super angels. So angel investors have money, but super angels have more. You might call them also high net worth individuals. You have family offices, which are super high net worth individuals where they actually have an office to manage their family funds. You have venture capital funds. You have private equity funds. You have sovereign wealth funds, and others, right? But those are like the big ones. And so venture capital does not invest in ideas. Venture capital invests in businesses, right? There was a time, 20 over 25 years ago, where they did invest in ideas during the dot-com boom, and then they all lost a bunch of money, and they don't do that anymore. And so they typically want to see at least 3 paying customers, and they want to see sustainable recurring revenue. The only the only exception to that rule is an entrepreneur that's made a lot of money for investors in the past. So if you're like Elon Musk and you've made a lot of money for investors, if you have some crazy new idea, they're going to back you just because you've got a track record of doing it. And so, but he's not a young entrepreneur. So I think the young entrepreneurs come out with an idea and they expect institutions to throw money at them, and it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't, right? They need to go raise money from angels, and those angels are typically people they know. And so it's a lot of work because people don't like to pitch their, uncles and their parents' friends and, stuff like that. Private equity funds, they typically are investing when companies have around 10 million in revenue. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, but they also have profits. They have positive EBITDA is what we call it. It's earnings before interest, taxes, and amortization. And so you don't want to approach a private equity fund at that stage. You don't want to approach a venture capital fund at this stage. You want to approach, your parents' friends or people who have made money at that stage. So I hope that helps.
That's great, sir. Thank you so much for your amazing answer. So you are connecting to connected leader across the world. What's the biggest opportunity you see the most people are sleeping on right now?
I don't think they're sleeping on big ideas. I think they're acting on them. And the whole mainstreaming of artificial intelligence has made it a lot easier to act on these things, because now people who don't know how to code can actually use Claude Code to actually code software, right? I mean, you used to have to hire developers to do things. Now you can find virtual developers to do them, right? I mean, it's a lot cheaper to do these things. So I think um, what artificial intelligence has done is it has democratized the entrepreneurial environment so that more people can do it with less resources.
Okay, sir. So what does success look like for you 10 years from now beyond money and titles?
Well, I would like to see 10 years from now my children all succeeding, doing well in life. I would like to see them having their own children. I'm already a grandfather with one grandchild, but I have five children, and I'd like to have a lot more grandchildren. Um, the other thing that is very important to me that doesn't really have to do with money and titles is, with all of my trips to Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, I've really gotten to make a lot of really strong friends in the Middle East and the MENA region. And today is Eid. So what are you doing on doing a podcast today? Is what I wanted, because that's a big holiday in Pakistan, right? Aren't you supposed to be celebrating today? No. So
It's night here.
that is night, yeah. So
S-
tomorrow, tomorrow.
nah, we already
Oh, you
celebrated
celebrate
in morning.
earlier. Oh, it's
Yeah.
earlier. I get all mixed up with the time zones. So it's the afternoon here. So, anyways, so I started. It's in my signature block there. I started this organization called Bridges of Faith, because when I've spoken in Pakistan, I've spoken on topics like cultural similarities and differences, religious similarities and differences between the East and the West, and I found that it was a subject that was a very strong interest to my Pakistani friends, right? I had a lot of people wanting to talk to me about these things, because, in Pakistan, you don't learn about other cultures and religions as much. And in the United States, while we do have a lot of different cultures and religions, people don't really dig in and learn about religions other than their own. And I happen to, I became a Christian late in life, halfway through, right? And then after becoming a Christian at the age of 24, I read the Quran 10 or 11 years later. And I'm a really unique person in that I understand both faiths. And so I, in talking with people in your part of the world, I found that this was a topic that was very interesting to them. And so I created this organization. We've been meeting online for a year and a half. We have a Facebook group called Bridges of Faith, and we have an email list. So if anybody wants to join us, please look me up on Facebook, Carl Grant the Third. Send me a direct message. I can't accept all the friend requests because I'm almost maxed out with friends now. So you can follow me, but send me a message and give me your email address, and I will get you on the Outlook invite, and you can join the Bridges of Faith group. And what we do is we study different topics, and we learn about it from a Muslim point of view, from an Old Testament point of view, or Hebrew Bible, and then New Testament, what Christians believe. And it's really interesting. And we have really good conversations. Nobody tries to argue with each other. Nobody tries to convert each other. We just learn from each other. And it's really beautiful. And so we pray together. We learn together. This next session, my Muslim friends picked the topic they want to study on hearing from God. Like, how does God communicate with us? And so that's what we're doing, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for this amazing answer, really. So, before ending this interview, I would like to ask my last question. So my last question is, if you could go back and give 16 years old one piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, I think I just told you I discovered faith, faith in God late in life. Right? I wasn't. I was 24, and what happens is when you're not walking with that type of relationship with your Creator, you tend to like do a lot of things you shouldn't do. And so I made a lot of mistakes. I did a lot of stupid things, and I would have told 16-year-old me to get your act together and learn about this faith earlier in life and not make the mistakes that I made.
Okay, sir. And so thank you, sir, for your precious time for this interview. I have learned a lot of things from you today, and I know our audience has too. So thank you so much, sir, for your time again. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.